She had waited 2 years for this moment. 2 years of carrying the weight of a loss that almost cost her a Grand Slam dream. And when she finally walked back onto a tennis court to face the woman who broke her heart, nobody, not even Eala herself, knew how this story was going to end. What happened next in Cincinnati would leave fans stunned, spark reactions from tennis legends, and set up a collision course with a top 10 opponent that is happening right now. Stay with me, because this story only gets more intense the deeper we go, and by the end, you are going to want to know exactly what happens next. Before we go any further, if you love stories like this, real comebacks, real pressure, real emotion, not just highlight reels, do yourself a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. This channel exists because of people like you who actually care about the journey, not just the score. Every subscriber tells us to keep digging deeper into these stories, and trust me, where this story is headed, you do not want to miss what comes next. So hit subscribe, turn on the bell, and let's get into it. It was the 2024 US Open qualifiers. A teenage Eala, ranked a modest number 153 in the world, stood one match away from what would have been her first ever Grand Slam main draw appearance. Across the net stood Elena-Gabriela Ruse of Romania, ranked 122 at the time. Eala fought. She took the first set. But Ruse clawed her way back, closing it out 3-6, 6-1, 6-4. For Eala, it was devastating. She was so close to history, and it slipped through her fingers on the biggest stage of her young career. That loss did not just hurt. It stayed with her. Fast forward 2 years. The tennis world in August 2026 looks completely different for Eala. The girl who once cried after a heartbreaking qualifying loss is now a 21-year-old sitting at a career-high world number 20. She is a WTA Tour champion. She made history at Wimbledon. And now she arrived in Cincinnati, Ohio, for the WTA 1000 Cincinnati Open, seeded 17th, carrying a first-round bye, and staring down a familiar name in the draw, Elena-Gabriela Ruse. This was the rematch nobody could have scripted better. The same two players. The same sport. But two completely different athletes than the ones who faced off in 2024. Here is where it gets interesting, though, because this was not the clean, easy revenge story fans expected. At the Lindner Family Tennis Center in Mason, Ohio, Eala took to the court against Ruse in the second round. And from the very first game, something felt different. Ruse actually broke Eala's serve to open the match. For a moment, it looked like history might repeat itself. But then Eala did something she has become known for this entire season: she flipped a switch. She reeled off 9 straight games. She dominated point after point, forcing Ruse deep behind the baseline with her aggressive, left-handed game. She took the first set 6-1 in just over half an hour and surged out to a 3-0 lead in the second. And then, just when it looked like the story was about to write its perfect ending, the sky turned on both of them. Storm clouds rolled in over the Lindner Family Tennis Center, and play was suspended for lightning. During that delay, Ruse called for a medical timeout, having her right foot strapped and taped by the trainer. The match resumed briefly, but as the weather worsened, officials suspended play again. And this time, Elena-Gabriela Ruse did not come back out. She retired from the match, unable to continue because of the injury to her foot. Eala advanced to the third round, 6-1, 3-0, by retirement. Now here is the part that makes this story so much more layered than a simple revenge tale. This was not the emotional, triumphant demolition some expected. It ended in an anticlimax, a walkover through injury, not through a hard-fought final point. But make no mistake, the tennis Eala played before that storm rolled and told its own story. She was in complete control. She had answered the moment. And with that result, something quietly significant happened. The head-to-head between Eala and Elena-Gabriela Ruse is now level at 1 win apiece. 2 years after that painful night in New York, the scoreboard between them finally reads even. But this is bigger than one match, and bigger than one rivalry. To understand why this moment matters so much, you have to understand exactly how far Eala has come in these past few months. Because what has happened to her career in 2026 might be one of the most remarkable rises in women's tennis this decade. It started at the Mubadala City DC Open, the tournament most fans know as the Washington Open. Eala went on an absolute tear through that draw, defeating a string of world-class opponents including Naomi Osaka, Zheng Qinwen, Leylah Fernandez, and Elena Svitolina. Then, in the final, she faced world number 3 Jessica Pegula. Eala dropped the first set, then fought back to win it 4-6, 6-4, 6-0, becoming the first player from the Philippines to ever win a WTA Tour singles title. That victory sent her rocketing up the rankings toward a career high inside the top 20. Then came Wimbledon. Eala became the first Filipina in history to be seeded in a Grand Slam main draw. She opened with a win over Renata Zarazua, then survived a scare against Australia's Maya Joint, storming back from a set down to win in 3. And then, on center court, she produced the moment that turned heads across the entire sport. She upset defending champion and former world number 1 Iga Swiatek, 7-6, 6-2. Her run at the All England club finally ended in the 4th round, in a grueling 3-set battle against Italy's Jasmine Paolini, but by then, the message was already sent. Eala belonged. From there, she carried that momentum straight into the North American hardcourt swing. At the Canadian Open in Toronto, she rattled off win after win, defeating Alicia Parks and Katie McNally to extend a 7-match winning streak that stretched back to Wimbledon. But the physical toll of weeks of back-to-back competitive tennis, combined with an ankle issue, finally caught up with her in the round of 16, where 12th seed Belinda Bencic ended her run with a 6-4, 6-0 victory. It was a tough scoreline for Eala fans to watch, but even in that loss, something had already changed. She was no longer an underdog story. She was a target. A player other seeds now had to actively prepare for. And that shift has not gone unnoticed by the biggest names in the sport. Former world number 1 and 2-time US Open champion Andy Roddick has been talking about Eala's game all season. On his podcast, he broke down exactly why her serve, which is not the fastest on tour, is actually one of her biggest weapons. Roddick explained that Eala's ability to take pace off her second serve and then explode on the very next ball is what makes her so dangerous. In his words, if an opponent does not square up that return cleanly, Eala can crush the next shot into either corner with pace. He went as far as to say that trying to copy her slower serve strategy without her elite ball-striking ability is a recipe for disaster against a player like Iga Swiatek. And then there is Greg Ruzetsky, the 1997 US Open finalist and former British number 1. Speaking on his own podcast just days before the Cincinnati Open began, Ruzetsky was asked directly whether Eala could break into the world's top 10 by the end of the US Open. His answer left no room for doubt. "Yeah, no question about it," he said. He went further, dismissing any concern about Eala's tough draw in Cincinnati, which includes potential matchups with Amanda Anisimova and Linda Noskova. Why should she care whether she's playing in Anisimova, or whoever's in the section? Ruzetsky said. Look at the people she beat to win Washington, it was world-class players from start to finish. He pointed to her run through Toronto on pure fatigue and emotion as further proof of her mental toughness, calling her a player who competes and fights no matter who stands across the net. So now, here we are. Eala has leveled the score with the woman who once denied her a Grand Slam debut. She has proven, match after match, that her rise into the top 20 is no fluke. But the story is far from finished, because waiting for her in the 3rd round of the Cincinnati Open is a matchup that could define the rest of her season. World number 10 Amanda Anisimova. A 2-time Grand Slam finalist. A player with some of the most powerful ground strokes on the entire WTA Tour. And the two of them have never faced each other before in professional competition. This is not a rematch. This is uncharted territory. A first-time meeting between a rising 21-year-old Filipina sensation who has already beaten Iga Swiatek this year, and a battle-tested American finalist who is fighting to keep her own season alive deep into the summer hardcourt swing. Beyond Anisimova, the danger does not stop. Linda Noskova, who has already beaten Eala twice this year, could be lying in wait. Jessica Pegula, the player Eala defeated in that unforgettable Washington final, is a possible quarterfinal opponent. And somewhere in the draw's top half sit two of the most consistent players in the world, Iga Swiatek and Elena Rybakina. And all of this is happening with the biggest stage of the entire season looming just around the corner. The US Open begins August 30th at Flushing Meadows, the very tournament where, 2 years ago, a heartbroken teenage Eala walked off the court after that painful loss to Ruse. Now she returns to that city as a top 20 player, as a WTA Tour champion, and as a player that legends of the sport believe can crack the top 10 before the summer is even over. So think about that for a second. The same young woman who once left Flushing Meadows in tears is now being talked about by former Grand Slam champions as a genuine threat to win one herself. That is not a small story. That is one of the most remarkable turnarounds in recent tennis history, and it is still being written in real time. Which brings us to right now. As of today, Alex Eala is stepping onto the court in Cincinnati to face Amanda Anisimova for the very first time, with a spot in the second week of a WTA 1000 tournament, career ranking points, and enormous momentum heading into the US Open all on the line. Nobody knows how this one ends yet. Not the analysts, not the pundits, not even Eala herself. Is this the match where Alex Eala proves she truly belongs with the very best in the world? Or does the fatigue of an unforgettable summer finally catch up with her at the worst possible time? We are about to find out, and when the result comes in, you are going to want to be here for it. That is exactly why you cannot afford to miss what we cover next. This story is moving fast, and the next chapter could be the biggest one yet. So if you have not already, subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and stay locked in, because the moment this match is decided, we will be breaking down exactly what happened, what it means for her US Open chances, and where the Eala story goes from here. Trust me, you do not want to find out from somewhere else first.